Hey everybody, welcome to Midweek Live. I couldn't remember the name of the show, but we're doing it this week. We're doing it live because, well, there was big news that was dropped today. And I don't know if you're like me, who was glued to the TV while working. I'm doing my day job, but in the background, I got YouTube on because I had to watch the MLS draw for the Disney tournament, the Mouse Cup, the Mickey Mouse Cup that is coming. So that's what we're talking about tonight. And if you are watching live, join in the conversation. Andres Hoyas is already in there. And welcome to the show. I am Pieter Brown. Esteban Mejia is here as well. But there's so much to talk about. We're going to do it quick tonight, about 30 minutes or so. And it's a lot going on. It's exciting. I don't know about you. If you watched that YouTube thing, it was like I had like a little bit of the feeling that you get when you're watching the World Cup draw. It felt a little bit like that. This is a World Cup style tournament to be played in Orlando for MLS. So it's super exciting. One step closer. Like Richard Giordano says, let's enlarge this and make some changes on these colors here right now live. That's the only problem with doing this. But 1, 2, 3, 5. Anyways. Lots to talk about. I'm sorry. Normally, I would have Ed with me, right? And while I play around with some of the technology, Ed is there. But before we get too much into the meat and potatoes of today's show, we got to say thank you to our sponsor, Caneswear. So go to Caneswear. If you haven't been, the store is open. It's in Davie. Go visit the store. I know one of our buddies, Ted, went and raided the store a couple of days ago. His girlfriend bought him a whole bunch of Caneswear gear, and so he's all set and ready to go, and you too can be ready as well. Just go to Caneswear. They got a great selection. They got probably the best selection in town. So go support our sponsor, and we get the address right there down below if you're not sure where it is. But a lot to talk about. All right, so 26 teams, all 26 teams headed to Orlando. We could talk a little bit about some advantages or disadvantages of some teams. There's going to be 6 groups, right? Every team is going to play 3 games. Now, originally, MLS wanted every team to play 5 games, but with the negotiations with the MLSPA Association, Players Association, they got it down to 3 games. So we're in a bracket with 6 teams, but we're only going to play 3 of them. And again, I got to hang on a second. I thought I had made a change, but it doesn't look like it took. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pop. Click, save. I want you guys to be able to see these comments that pop in. Boriculano says, with 6-team Group A, increase or decrease our chances to move to the next round? Very good question there. And let's get into what the groups are first off. So as we all know, it was already announced ahead of time that the first game of the entire mini season, the little tournament, is going to be Inter Miami versus Orlando City. So Orlando City, it makes complete sense. Orlando City is the host. So just think of this like it's a World Cup. And so the host town obviously is starts it all off. But we all know that nobody in this league is going to be excited about watching just an Orlando City game. So they had to bring in Inter Miami. They had to bring in Inter Miami to raise that excitement level up a little bit for the first game. Inter Miami being a more maybe international team, and also the new kid on the block, right? So we got the Florida rivalry here in the opening game on July 8th. So all the teams should be headed down to Orlando on June 24th, and the first game will be July 8th against Orlando. And then when we go, let's look at what the Eastern draw looks like. So Group A, we've got Orlando and Miami, which was already decided upon. New York City FC, Philadelphia Union, Chicago Fire, and Nashville. I think it's kind of cool that Miami and Nashville are in the same group. We came into the league together, and so, it's kind of cool that they ended up in the same group. However, we won't be playing Nashville in that first group stage. We may or may not play them if we move on to the next round of 16, or the knockout rounds. But they will not play each other in the first, because Miami is going to be playing Orlando City, as we know, Philadelphia Union, and Chicago. So let's talk a little bit about that. So they're only playing Chicago and Philadelphia Union in Orlando City. Which ones are you worried about? As an Inter Miami fan, I don't think any of us are really worried about Orlando, but they do have a new coach, Oscar Pareja, who has had success in MLS before. So, you can't necessarily overlook them, but we will, because we don't like them, right? So Orlando City, we figure, that's a good matchup. Every team is rusty. This is going to look a lot like preseason, but it's, I think, an exciting tournament. I like the way the tournament is set up, with it being a World Cup style brackets. I think that's really, really exciting and unique. And maybe this is something, if it's successful, MLS looks to hold on to some sort of World Cup style tournament. Maybe it's a preseason tournament. I don't know how they fit it in a regular season, but it's exciting. The games mean something, because your group stage games are going to count towards the standings once the MLS season resumes. And they're hoping that the MLS season will resume at the end of this Orlando tournament. And so we've got some good questions in the chat. So Uncle Ed is in the chat, and he's asking how many advance. So it's the top two teams in each group, and then the top four third place teams. Right, so in all the groups, the top four third place finishers will advance. So it does get one of the questions in the chat was from Boriculano about, does it increase or decrease our chances to move to the next round? I mean, it does make it a little bit tougher. Your odds, right? Your odds are a little more challenging when you've got more teams in your group. So that is a bit of a challenge. But if you think about it, interesting thing is when we watch MLS games, or I'm sorry, when we watch a World Cup, we're always talking about the group of death. And so you got to wonder, which is the group of death when we look at the entire season, when we look at the entire, all the groups lined up. I'm curious what you guys think. Which one do you think would be considered the group of death? To me, and also to a lot of other people on MLS, soccer.com, there was a poll there. A lot of people, I think the number was almost 60% feel like Group F, LAFC and LA Galaxy being in the same group, El Tráfico, that makes that group the group of death. I would agree. That looks like the challenger group. I'm happy Inter Miami are not in that group. And we've, in our group, when we look at the Eastern draw, I'm really worried. I would be mostly worried about Philadelphia, right? We played Philadelphia in the preseason. That's a positive. They've already played, so they know what that team looks like. So they played in the preseason. And, we lost, but, whatever. That's preseason. And the interesting thing is this tournament will feel a little bit like preseason, but it counts. So, the players are going to be a little rusty, and so it may have a bit of a preseason look. But I think, I'm curious if you guys agree. If you agree that the excitement level will be amped up because of the tournament style play. And if you guys want, while I'm at it, if you guys want to give us a call, 786-474-4435. It's the number's on the screen. I got the old voice message machine hooked up. So if you guys want to leave a voicemail, we'll play that and get you, your point out there. Yep. Lawless Sniper says Group F, a 1/1,000,000% LA teams with Portland. That makes them definitely tough. So, add effect, shadow. Let's do that. And yeah. So, something else to think about that was interesting. The teams, we talked about this, and this may not mean much to anybody unless you're Disney nut like me. But the teams were expected to stay at Coronado Springs Resort. That resort got snatched up by NBA. They like that one, but you know what? I think MLS got lucky with this one because they're going to be staying at the Dolphin and the Swan and Dolphin Resort, which, interestingly enough, is not a Disney-owned hotel. It is on Disney property, but Disney does not technically own that hotel. But it's a beautiful resort, and each team will have its own floor, from what I'm understanding. And each team, at least in the group rounds, they'll play about one game every 5 days or so. And in between, MLS is also trying to figure out some fun things for them to do. And all around that resort and all around the Disney resort, plenty of golf courses. So they'll have outings. It'll be like school field trips, right? Imagine back in the day when you went to school and everybody went out on a school field trip. It's going to be like that because they're not going to just let some players go do this and some players go do that. It's going to be all kind of a united thing or a group-approved, MLS-approved outings. So they want to entertain the people as well, but they'll be staying at that great resort. Boriculaano thinks that Group C. Let's go back to that. Group C is the toughest group. Group C is Toronto, New England, Montreal, and DC United. What's interesting about Group C is you got two Canadian teams. Toronto and Montreal are both in there. And so, that makes it an exciting group. DC United can't look past New England. I mean, they're still trying to turn it around with Bruce Arena. And, all right, so we got another one here. Otto says, let's read what Otto has to say. Let's move him up a little bit. I'm a Galaxy fan. I stumbled upon this video, and I'm curious to know if the fans of both Florida teams have come up with a name for the rivalry yet. I'm excited to see the birth of a new rivalry. No. I think we should on this show, not necessarily tonight, but on Football Miami TV, we should give that some thought. And maybe Ed and I can battle about that a little bit over the weekend show on Sunday when we do this again. But with Ed joining me, we could kind of come up with some ideas. What would be a good rivalry name? Something related to the Turnpike. I don't know. Sunshine Cup. I don't know. I'm not good at that stuff. But there is not a name for the rivalry yet. Black and purple. Pink and purple. I don't know. But first we got to play a few games. Let that happen maybe naturally. I like the rivalry between Cincinnati and Columbus, the Hell rivalry, something like that. I think that's cool, but nothing official yet from the two teams. I think that has to happen organically. Maybe something from the supporters clubs. Battle of the Sunshine State says El Tropico says Lawless Sniper. Boriculaano says Battle of the Sunshine State. I like El Tropico. I think that's fun. It sounds a little too similar to El Trafico, but I think that is fun nonetheless. Something I wrote some notes from today. After watching the draw and sitting on the edge of my seat watching the draw on YouTube, I then watched the MLS Extra Time show as well, and there it was cool that they had Paul McDonough on the show. So Paul McDonough dropped a few gems on that show as well, mentioning that, there was all this talk about us getting two more players, like a DP and maybe a TAM level player. They kept saying a 9 and an 8, right? They kept talking about that, wanting to get that player in the summer. And, we kind of bantered about a little bit on this channel that would that still happen? Do you still want to bring in a player during the summer when you have such a limited time maybe with that player? Well, Paul McDonough says yes. They still want that player. In fact, they don't want 2 players. They want 3 players now. They want to sign a DP. They still want to sign a number 8 TAM level player, and they want to. They're first up for in the allocation player pool. So they want to get a third player, maybe a wide or attacking player as the third player. So all three in some sort of attacking roles. And he actually wants to get these players before the Orlando tournament. He doesn't know if the league will let him do that, but that's what he wants to do. He wants to nail down 3 players. So that means they got to be close, right? They got to be talking to some players if he thinks they can nail them down in the next few weeks. His comment was really about when MLS will allow him to add the players. So that there's still plans to add 3 high-level players to this team, which is really, really exciting. Hey, Diego Garcia, welcome. I see you're in there. And so that was really interesting to hear that we're still hungry to get those new players. So in the chat, guys, what do you think? Are you excited about this tournament? I'm amped up. I know my energy level is really high. I had a few cups of coffee before this while I was watching I almost called it the Super Draft, but the MLS is Back tournament. That's a mouthful. MLS is Back tournament. I think Mickey Mouse Cup or Mouse Cup is much better, but again, looking at the entire draw, it looks fun. It looks exciting. Something else to note is that they will have 3 games per day. One at 9 in the morning, one at 8 o'clock at night, and then one at 10:30 at night. That's what it was. And so 3 games per day. And James Batten says, I'm excited, hoping to watch it somewhere from England. Yep, they're going to. And so if you got ESPN there, you'll at least be able to see some of them. Something Don Garber said, some people were questioning that 9 a.m. start. That's really early, but that's why it also feels a little more like a World Cup. I mean, so I got that World Cup level excitement because we've been without soccer for so long, and us here in South Florida waited for so long to get an MLS team that it's got that level of excitement to me. So waking up early to see a game, it feels like the World Cup as well. But he mentioned that one specific broadcast partner is very excited about that 9 a.m. spot. Don't know which one it is, Univision, Fox, or ESPN. Which one do you think is excited? Which one of those 3 broadcast partners does 9 a.m. sound like works? I don't know. But they're all hungry. ESPN obviously is hungry for sports. They're a sports network that doesn't have any real sports to show other than UFC. So they definitely want to play the games. And ESPN will be handling all the filming, all the technology side of things. And then they'll just give out the feeds to Univision or Fox. So you guys, we're going to be 9 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be sitting there working from home. Those of you that are doing that, watching an MLS game. Then at 8 o'clock at night, tune back in, watch another MLS game, and then finish the night at 10:30. We're all going to be going to bed late. But imagine if you're on the West Coast. We have an LA Galaxy fan in here. You're on the West Coast, and you're watching some of these Western draw games. 9 a.m. is a little early, but luckily, the league has said that none of the West teams will play 9 a.m. games. So don't worry, LA Galaxy fans. You don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. to watch a game. You'll be able to watch one at, say, 5, because the 8 o'clock game would be 5 o'clock if I'm right there. So Alex Z says, I just hope to see them live at Lockhart this season. Me too. And they feel pretty confident that after this tournament, they might be able to play some games in front of fans. I still think, it's not necessarily open in the same level in every state, right? So Florida's a little more liberal as far as allowing people to gather, right? Other states may not allow large gatherings. And so it may not, you got, as a league, you got to be fair to everybody. So, you can't say, okay, Miami and Orlando, you can have fans, but California, you can't have fans. So I think you got to do the same for everybody. And so in Canada, maybe they're even more strict. I don't know. But, so you gotta, I think, keep it a level playing field. So it may not be till October or something that maybe we're able to get into Lockhart. But I would agree. I can't wait to see some games live. But at the very least, we're going to watch these games. And something else that was interesting is they did talk about the games using some new technologies that they're going to mic up the fans, mic up the players, mic up the coaches. You're going to definitely hear more. They're going to somehow figure out a way to bring the fans into the game, maybe some live chatting or something like that during the game. But that'll be interesting. And let me talk about that more in just a second. I thought I saw something here that what time would Miami versus Orlando game be, says Esteban Mejia. They haven't announced that. At least I didn't see that anywhere, but I'm going to guess and say it's going to be the 8 p.m. spot. That's going to be your primetime game, right? So day one, July 8th, you're going to see one game. You're probably, just like a World Cup, you're going to probably only see the Miami-Orlando game at 8 p.m. That's my guess. I think that's a pretty safe bet. And then the very next day, you got your full slate of games. Interesting thing is that, like we talked about on some of our other shows, that if a player like Carlos Vela, who's got a pregnant wife, doesn't want to go, he doesn't have to. But they're going to try to work it out and try to get as many players at the games. And I'm sure most of them are excited and really want to get back to games. And that's just it. Is we think this may feel. Some people have said it's just a glorified preseason, and they'll be at preseason level of fitness, and the touch will feel and look a little bit like preseason. But I think these players are so amped up to get back to meaningful games that they won't treat it like preseason, right? Because the games do count, and they're just amped up to get back and to do what they love to do. And so I think it's going to be real high, at least exciting. Is it going to be the highest level? No, but it will be exciting. Lawless Sniper is also, I'm excited to see us implement this aggressive, free-flowing style Alonso and Jorge have promised. Also, hopefully, we batter Orlando. Exactly. Yeah, we definitely want to see this high-press style of play that everybody has been mentioning. Could have been ESPN Cup or Disney Cup, but branding problem, I guess. Yeah, you don't want to brand it ESPN or Disney, especially because you're working with your other partners in the broadcasting partners. So you don't want to dismiss Univision or Fox, right? So that makes sense to not brand it right now. But it is a mouthful. MLS is back, tournament, and there's a $1.1 million pot that everybody will get to win. But that's going to be, given out to all the teams, right? So the guess is the winning team is going to get a couple $100,000 that they could pass out amongst the players and staff. And the winner of the tournament gets a berth in the Champions League. That's great, CONCACAF Champions League, which takes place, normally the winner of the Supporter Shield gets in, and then that next best team gets in too. So this is that next best team slot is now going to the Mickey Mouse Cup winner, which hopefully is Inter Miami. But when you think about our draw again, I think we stand a pretty good chance. I think we could beat Orlando again. That we don't have a lot to go on. Only 2 games, but it's only 2 games for everybody. So, and how much has Oscar Pereira been able to turn around the team in such a short period of time and without actually having a lot of time with them other than through Zoom, but Orlando, I think we could beat or draw, right? Philadelphia, that's a tough one. And Chicago's basically like an expansion team, just like Miami or Nashville. Chicago, they changed their ownership. They changed their coach. They changed their logo to a crappy logo. They changed most of their players. So they're a brand new team as well. So they're not that much better off than Miami or Nashville. So I think we got a pretty good draw there. Otto M says, I'm definitely watching all the games, but the 6 a.m. kickoff here on the West Coast is a little tough. Yeah, well, none of the West Coast teams will play at 6 a.m., so you don't have to, but if you just want to watch all the games like I do, then yeah, you're going to have to get up. But, it reminds me of that year that the World Cup, I think it was in Korea, and the games were at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Maybe it was like midnight, 2 and 4, something like that. And I remember me and my wife getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch some games. It's going to be kind of like that. So get up, watch the game, and, just drink a lot of coffee that day. For a month, for 6 weeks, whatever the tournament is. Drink a lot of coffee. And Alex Z says, I'm sure ESPN is crying to get those 9 games. I'm sure they're willing to switch from Korean baseball to MLS. Yeah, they'll take anything right now. And a lot of us, look, I got ESPN Plus. I'm paying for something that I'm not using right now. The only thing I use it for is can't tell you how many times I have watched that MLS, the first Inter Miami game, because that's on ESPN Plus. And so I could just hit that again and again and again. Now I know I'm watching them lose, so it's kind of like I'm beating myself up a little bit, but it's the only thing I can do. I mean, that's the only Inter Miami game I can continually watch because it's on ESPN Plus. But I'm paying for it, and I got no sports. All right, nothing. Otto M says, besides the Inter Miami versus Orlando game, what game are you most looking forward to? Let's go back to the league draw. And I'd have to say, Otto, you said you were an LA Galaxy fan. I'd have to say it's that LAFC, LA Galaxy. That's an exciting game. Houston and Portland, that's fun too. So, I mean, that's a tough group. LAFC right now, you got to expect them to still be great, continuing from last year. And LA Galaxy, they're still trying to figure some things out with Chicharito, but that's an exciting game to watch. What else? You know who's at the biggest disadvantage right now is San Jose. San Jose has not been able to practice yet. They I think, are just now getting the ability to start practicing. So they've been in a much worse off situation. I just realized I didn't plug in my power. So good thing we're not going for an hour tonight. But computer will die, and it's 40%, guys. But then the rivalry games will be fun too. Cincinnati versus Columbus. Again, I don't care about either team really, but just it's fun to watch those kind of rivalries. Atlanta and Red Bulls have kind of, from what I understand, have developed a little bit of a rivalry, at least on the field. They've had some heated games. That'll be fun. The Toronto-Montreal game will be fun as well. I think Group B is the group that I could care the least about. Don't care about Real Salt Lake, Sporting Kansas City, or Colorado, or Minnesota. I think Sporting KC probably is the clear favorite, although Real Salt Lake is the top seed for a reason. So they had a good last season. Joseph James says, I honestly think we'll be third place. First place, New York. Second, Philly. Third, Inter Miami CF. I might agree with you. When I was looking at our group, I kept thinking something similar. We're going to have to really come out strong to get that first or second spot. Luckily, I think we've got a pretty good draw of teams that we're playing against, so that I think is in our favor. But you can't count against New York City. Had a great season last year, but they got a new coach, right? So they're in our group. There are 5 new coaches. 5 new coaches in one group. That's pretty crazy, right? So here we go. Here's a Derby del Sol, or Sunshine Derby would be an interesting name. Lawless Sniper. Yeah, that'd be fun. Boriculano says names for the rivalry game for next week. The Florida Classic, Battle of I-75. It'd be Battle of Turnpike, right? The Orange Classic, Orange Dade Classic, Magic City Classic, the Sunshine Showdown. Florida Cup, that's actually a tournament. That's probably it's already trademarked. That's a international tournament, so that'd be a problem there, calling it the Florida Cup. But good thoughts. Let's Ed, if you're watching this, give it some thought. And on Sunday, let's make that one of our topics. Let's come up with some ideas. Over the next few days, I'll try to think of something. I'm not the most creative though, but I'll try to think of some names myself. I don't know. I-75. Orlando's closer to the Turnpike. That's how I get to Orlando. I take the Turnpike. So Turnpike tournament, Turnpike Cup, Turnpike. I don't know. What is it? Could we something Sunshine State Derby? Yep. Trying to think. Herons beat Mickey. I don't know. What do we got here? Okay, nothing. All right, just making sure we didn't get any phone calls. I've got the phone number up there in case anybody had wanted to call. We're at the 30-minute mark, so we're going to wrap this up. Mosquito Derby, I like that one. That's a fun name as well. But wanted to do this live with you guys today because, and I thought about doing a regular edited news segment yesterday, which I would have filmed yesterday to make live today, right? But knowing that by the time that gets up, it'll already be outdated, because knowing at 3:30 today that they were announcing the draw, figured we had to talk about it together and talk about how excited we are. Here we go. Boriculano says Magic City equals Disney World and Miami Vice. So Disney Vice. Peninsula Derby says Finder 3K. Welcome, Finder 3K. I haven't seen you in our chats before, but so welcome. And in the comments, keep adding them. Even if you're watching this later, put some comments in there. Talk about your excitement level, and then let's come up with a name for the derby between Orlando and Miami. It's kind of cool that we're starting this off, and I still go with what I said earlier. They had to play Orlando first, but Orlando has no real cachet in the league. Nobody cares. Even in Orlando, they barely care. The stadium has been fairly empty in the last season. They started off strong, solid numbers, but it's been a bit of a drop-off because they haven't been good. And no matter what city you're in, if you suck for so long, nobody's showing up. And that's what's happening in Orlando. So they had to pair somebody up with Orlando to make it more interesting, make it more exciting. It makes sense. Put the new boys in there. Put Inter Miami in there. Pink versus purple. Here we go. Milando Clásico, say it in Spanish. It's Miami Orlando in the name. Milando Clásico. I guess that's how you would say it, Joseph G. Milando Clásico. Am I doing all right? How's my Spanish there? Yeah, I'm not so great there. Judge Dredd the Law says I call it Mosquito Derby because, well, to all who live in Florida, you know damn well what I'm talking about. Yes. And up in Orlando, and I think Judge Red, you're up closer to that area. You got all those love bugs up there, man. That's a crazy, all over your car. You got the love bugs more up there than you do down here. They're all over the place up there. But anyways, hey, I'm just rambling on right now. Talk about in the comments below what your excitement level about this tournament. Do you think other people are going to be as excited as we are, or are your average fans going to just kind of look at it like, eh? And I'm curious what kind of technology. I just actually before I'm trying to end the show, but then I keep finding new things to talk about. Just before coming live on the show, I was reading an article on The Athletic where La Liga is actually partnering with EA Sports, and they're going to put digital fans in their stands, and so it's going to look like there's fans in the stands, and they think they're cutting edge, and it's going to have a low hum of fans in there. It's going to merging video games with real games. I don't think any MLS is going to do anything like that, but they did mention something about miking up the fans. Also, interesting thing I didn't mention before, there will be 5 substitutes allowed in these games, but you'll only have 3 opportunities to make those 5 subs because they don't want a team sitting there stopping the game 5 times. So you have 3 times you could stop the game to put subs in, but you could do 2 subs at a time, what have you. So you can make up to 5 subs. You could like do a whole line shift like you would in hockey, right? So, or you can make the changes in the halftime. So you can interrupt the game 3 times, or you could do it at halftime. So 5 subs. Everybody's really concerned about the heat there. They'll have water breaks and all that, and that's why the games are not in the 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock time frames, and that's because that massive heat that's up in Orlando, and it's hotter in Orlando than it is down here. Down here, we've got a little bit of of a breeze because we're closer to the water. In Orlando, it's just set still. Here we go. Herna OSC says, hey, Peter, any updates on the stadium? Is it completely finished? As far as I've seen, it is. But you know what, guys? I've been reading the comments, and I've seen some of you have been asking me to do another stadium update, and you don't care if it's the same thing that you've seen before, because it very well may be. You want me to do it, so I will. So I'm going to try this weekend, see if I can carve out some time this weekend to go to the stadium and do another stadium update Bear in mind, it might not be anything new, but we will go take a look, and hopefully we'll have something next week to show you at the stadium. And Rovira Romani says, Florida Soccer Derby. And Judge Dredd says, bruh, it's gross over here. The humidity is diabolical. I know. I spent a lot of time in Orlando. So much time that Ed makes fun of me. I'm a Disney nut, so I spend a lot of time. And plus, I have family up in Orlando, so I have some place to stay. It makes it easy and convenient to drive up there. So I understand. But anyways, I'm going to stop rambling. 35-minute show. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure, if you didn't already watch it, Ed and Ricky did a cool interview on Tuesday with former Miami Fusion player. So go check that out. It's in Spanish. A lot of you guys are bilingual, so go check out that show if you haven't already. And watch us on Sunday where Ed and I come together again. And we may have a guest lined up for that show. If not, we'll be talking more about this. And we'll go into more detail. Plus, actually, we could talk a little bit about USL because there's plans for USL coming back as well. So we could talk about that on Sunday. So join us Sunday at 7 p.m. right here. We'll do it live, me and Ed. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you on Sunday. Thanks, everybody.